Hi Divas, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about literally whatever I want to, but mostly books. And before we just get into it today, which I'm very excited to do, I need to mention a couple of things. Firstly, the blue hair. Yes, I know, I look incredibly beautiful. I also want to address my last video because it performed very well and I'm very happy about it. I was a little bit nervous because, it's a different subject matter. I mostly talk about books. I don't know if you know that. So even though I had a bunch of copyright issues with YouTube, which I'm still pissed off about, I got it all figured out. The last fight that I talk about is a little bit choppy, but you know what? Some of the girls on Canada are a little bit choppy. Oh my god, I guess that kind of is an incredible segue into today's video. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the most popular books, period, ever in the world, and I'm going to give you my brutally honest opinion about them and just tell you what I personally thought. It's actually genuinely so crazy how my roommates are always silent when I'm setting up to film, and then they always decide to go crazy when I start filming. But anyways, you get the gist of the video. I'm going to be going through some of the most popular books that I have read and giving you my brutally honest thoughts about them. I am feeling a little bit crazy today. If we're being completely honest and vulnerable with the culture, I am filming this a mere couple of days before it goes up, which is not how much time I usually like to have. But listen, a diva needs to have some struggles, I fear, and this semester, my god, has it just taken everything out of me. My god, it's actually insane. So I'm feeling very liminal, if you want to call it something. So let it be known that that's the headspace that I'm in. So if I say something quite insane about one of your favorite books, maybe I don't mean it. And actually, you're crazy because I didn't say that. Let's fucking get into it. Okay. First book on the docket is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This book has 170,000 reviews on Storygraph. By the way, the criteria that I made for this list is they need to have at least 100,000 reviews on Storygraph. I know that's not a perfect system, but this is my video and this is my world that I'm living in, and get into it. I don't know what to tell you. Now, Sylvia Plath is famously not an incredible person, and the older that I've gotten, the more insufferable I have found her writing and just the general cultural space that she takes up. I understand why a book like The Bell Jar has stuck around, because I do think it is a very good book. I think it's a very good classic book. I would be curious to reread it to see if I have any updated opinions. I haven't read it in 3.5 years, so it's been a minute. I think honestly that this book at this point is acting as more of a Rorschach test. Did I say that correctly? It acts more as a Rorschach test at this point, I feel like. If you want to like this book, if you have a good relationship with Sylvia Plath, if you are in blissful ignorance about her controversies, about her racism, about her ideology, about her viewpoints, or if you can kind of separate those from this book and recognize it for what it is and not agree with all of the ideology in here, but still get the core themes of the story. But I also completely understand that it's really hard to look past a lot of the issues in this book, because a lot of the issues in this book are glaring. I also, at this point, me personally, have a rough relationship with Miss Plath. Again, I do like this book. I remember liking this book. I don't have a lot of issues with it as a piece of literature. I think thematically it works quite well. I think that Plath has a very unique style of writing, and I can see why she is such an influential writer. I really enjoyed this book. Now, do I think that Sylvia Plath is a good person? No. Do I have a rough relationship with her because a friend that I had a horrible falling out with was obsessed with her? Possibly, maybe. I'm not sure. Regardless, this book is whatever. I think if you want to read it, it, you're gonna read it. If you don't want to read it, you're not gonna read it. And if you have already read it, you already have an opinion on it, and I don't need to sway that opinion on it, because who am I to tell you how you felt about a book? All right, next book that I have on the docket is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the newest Hunger Games book. Now, obviously, this isn't the most popular book in the series. That would obviously be either The Hunger Games or Catching Fire, one of the two. I would assume the first. But I'm talking about this one because this is the most recent. You know, the film is going to come out in a little bit, which I'm excited about. I don't think that, like, a single person is not excited about the film, right? Like, if you have ever at least once been interested in this franchise at one point in your life, you are excited about the Sunrise on the Reaping film. That I can tell you how to feel. And I had such an incredible experience reading this book, specifically because I read it before Catching Fire. And so I knew nothing about Haymitch's Games. In the Catching Fire book, there's like a section that is basically a play-by-play of Haymitch's Games, which doesn't spoil everything in Sunrise on the Reaping. There definitely is more to the book than what we get in Catching Fire. I mean, obviously. But I do think that there are some moments that wouldn't have been as intense if I already knew that they happened. And I was honestly kind of surprised about how in-depth Catching Fire went with Haymitch's Games. Anyways, that has nothing to do with this book. This book, I fucking loved it. I thought it was incredible. I think Suzanne Collins pretty famously at this point doesn't write unless she has something to say, and the things that she is trying to say come across so clearly in this book. It's so incredible, and they come across in a way that pulls at your heart in such a devastating way. Honestly, this is a rough book to read. It is insane. It's like, it's not incredibly gorgeous time. It's the child death match. Like, we're reading about the child death match. We're reading about the especially bad child death match. But I will say something with all of the Hunger Games books, but I feel like specifically with this one, for some reason, I feel so passionately about them once I finish them, and I do think that they are like great pieces of work, but for me personally, they don't particularly stand out as like favorites in my collection or like favorites in the overall collection that I've read. I guess that's kind of like a stupid critique now that I'm saying it out loud, because obviously not every single book that you read and like is going to be like a part of your favorites. Every single book that you read can't be your favorite book of all time, and every single book that you read can't be a 5-star read, you know? Anyways, I think it's great. I think that it's worth the read. I think that you should definitely read it before the movie comes out, because at this point, Diva, you have had plenty of time, and I still haven't read Mockingjay or Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I still plan on doing it, and I'm still very excited to. I love this franchise. Suzanne Collins, I love you. You are Mother. I think that Suzanne Collins could write The Bell Jar, but Sylvia Plath could never write The Hunger Games. Now clock that tea. Next up, I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which has 145,000 reviews on Storygraph. For me, the first two stories were not as good as the second two stories, but I did find the second two stories to be incredible. I almost cried by the end of this book. I think that it is an incredibly comfortable and cozy read. It's a tiny little book. It's a little bit less than 250 pages, I want to say. Oh, I'm fully lying. It's 272 pages, but the pages are pretty small, and it's a lot of fun to read. Now, this is a critique that I could be making up, so please don't hate me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in every story, there was kind of this repetition of how this thing works, how like the coffee shop works, when there really doesn't need to be. I don't think that it needed to be explained to us 4 times. It's a pretty simple concept. You can travel back in in time in this coffee shop, but you need to be in the same spot and you need to return before the coffee gets cold, right? Oh, and everything that happens in the past, like, won't change the present. Like, everything will stay the same, but, like, you can still go back if you wanted to. And there is just, like, a lot of repetition, I feel like, with all of the characters being like, there's a time traveling cafe, and then they go to it, and then they hear the rules, and they're like, what? That's stupid. Why would I ever want to do that? And then they leave, and then they think about it, they come back, they do it, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. So, again, I don't know if, like, I'm making this up. That is just what I remember. Again, I haven't read this for 3 years. I also just don't think that it is an incredible translation. Now, admittedly, Japanese is a very difficult language to translate into English. Even some of my favorite pieces of Japanese translated works still have their translation issues, I feel like. I don't know if it's the translation or if it's the writing. There's just something about, like, the prose itself that, for me, is a little bit lackluster. I think that the story and the concepts overall are really good, and I think that I'm definitely in the minority of not being obsessed with this book, TBH. I'm curious if there are any hardcore fans of this series who think that, like, some of the later books are better, because this is the only book in the series that I have read. And I want to reiterate that I did enjoy it. I did like it. Again, it almost brought me to tears. Like, I think that that's always something very important to note for me. And if a friend were to be like, hey, do you want to read the second book in this series with me? I'd be like, honestly, yeah. Because it is a very cozy read. It is a very lighthearted read. And you need those every once in a while. You know what I mean? This actually would be a perfect book for me to read after my semester, to just kind of, like, unwind, decompress, and read something that is not going to be too difficult. That sounds mean. I don't know how to say that in a way that isn't mean. Do you know what like, are you understanding my thoughts right now? I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody that liked this book, because at the end of the day, I also liked this book, and I feel like the people who love this book, I also love, and I love you for loving this book. I just didn't love this book in the way that you love this book, but I love that you love this book. Is that good enough? Did I cover my ass? Please don't be mad at me. Please. I cannot handle that right now. Next up, I'm going to talk about 2 books from an extremely popular author, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, both by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like I bit my tongue 5 times while saying that sentence, and I'm not going to refilm it. So if that sounded crazy, that's why. Again, I'm really just doing my best here, and at the end of the day, that's all we can do, right? Let's start with Daisy Jones and the Six, which has 305,000 reviews. Gaggy boots. The best way that I can describe this book is like a fictionalization of Fleetwood Mac, which I feel like is just such a compelling sell, honestly, as a book. It's told through, like, interview styles, which is interesting to read. I personally don't mind it as formatting. I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid is a good enough writer at this point in her career, and I think that she knows the vision of this book well enough to be able to pull off a pretty bold move, I would say, honestly. Written as if it were the whole... Oh, I almost said oral history. Jesus Christ. I meant oral history. Jesus. Okay. Written as if it were the oral history of one of the biggest bands in the 70s. Fleetwood Mac. This book is so chic. I love this book. This book is so good. Spoiler alert, this book and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I love both of them. There's just always going to be something so interesting and compelling to me about old Hollywood glamour. And when I mean old, I do include, like, 60s. Yeah, 60s, 70s. I am gonna consider that old. But this is like 50s, I want to say, right? Yeah, making her way to Los Angeles in the 50s, leaving show business in the 80s. There is just always something so compelling to me about that. I'm always going to find it interesting, and I'm always going to find, like, a dramatized version of these events to be extremely fascinating, especially when they're gay, but we'll get there. I don't know what I could say about this book that hasn't been said already. It's a really good book. Personally, I really liked the TV show. I didn't mind the changes that they made, personally. Would I recommend it? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think that both of these books are incredible books, period. But I also think that they are great books if you're trying to get back into reading. I think that The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was one of the first books that I read, like, as an adult post-school reading. You know what I mean? And I mean, look at me now. I have a booktube channel, so it got me somewhere, I guess. Anyways, yes. Daisy Jones and the Six. I seriously don't know, like, what I haven't said already. I loved this book. Great book. Love Daisy Jones and the Six. Also, love The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Oh, actually, if we want to talk about negative things about both of these books, a critique that I have about both of these books, they have absolutely insane and unnecessary plot twists towards the end. Daisy Jones and the Sixes is a little bit less insufferable. It's more of just like a, oh, cool. And then The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo's plot twist is just absolutely insufferable and makes little to no sense to me, personally. But I mean, when a book is as good and glamorous as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is, I mean, I can't complain about too much. I think I read this in 2 days, which is honestly impressive. I do not think that I could do that today. Honestly, do not think that I could do that today. I also think that I listened to this on audiobook, and I think that the audiobook was... No, I actually don't think that I did. I think that that's a lie. I think that that was why it was so gaggy that I read it in 2 days, because at that point I was like listening and reading because like I couldn't really focus otherwise. But no, I read this so quickly. Also, there's something so charming about Seven Husbands. I am obsessed with that. And then obviously, you know, it is a queer novel, which I love. I think that it's good representation. I would say that it is. I think that it is a very compelling romance. I love the romance in this book. I don't love the romance as much in this, personally. I prefer it in this. But I mean, both books are just so solid. Taylor Jenkins Reid, she really did her big one with both of these. For real, for real. And I know that because I started reading Maybe in Another Life, and my god, the beginning of that book was fucking insane. I like could not believe that I was reading a book of the same author. It was insane. I want to like go back and do a dedicated video on it because seriously, compared to these books, that looks like... Oh, let me be silent, actually, because I haven't finished the book, so I don't want to say anything too crazy. I didn't even mention that, like, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is probably the most popular book that I'm going to talk about in this video. Has 515,000 reviews and 4.44 on Storygraph. That's crazy. I personally think it's 100% deserved. It's an incredible book. Next up, I have Normal People by Sally Rooney, which has 281,000 reviews. Now, I am a Sally Rooney defender. I really am. I loved Intermezzo. I loved Conversations with Friends. My god, this was an absolute chop for me. That's not to say that there aren't good things about this book and that there aren't compelling things about this book and things that I enjoy. I would definitely be interested to revisit this, especially since I am older now. When did I read this? I read this when I was 18. So and freshly 18. So I definitely think that I have a little bit more experiences. That was not grammatically correct. I think I could relate to this book more than I did, which I think possibly could be backed up by the fact that I read Conversations with Friends like slightly recently, and same with Intermezzo. This was my first Sally Rooney book. Maybe that's important to mention. Is this like maybe the divas that loved this book, maybe it was their second Sally Rooney. Maybe they like got used to her first. I don't know. I don't even think that the Sally Rooney of this all is particularly that bad. I mean, it's no secret that she can be a little bit insufferable sometimes, in my opinion. For me, what I love to do, I just need to get into my pretentious bag a little bit and be like, you know what, diva, do what you want to do. You better not use quotation marks. I trust you. I trust Sally Rooney with my life. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. You wrote Conversations with Friends. I don't give a fuck. I will blow smoke up your fucking ass, except for when it comes to this book, because this book is a chop. A true friend is somebody who is honest with you. And Sally Rooney, I know that this is your most popular book. Is this worth it to reread? Possibly. I don't know. This is just like another one of those books that, like, at the end, like, I could reread it, but like, if I'm gonna reread a Sally Rooney book, I'm going to reread Conversations with Friends, because I just think that it's better. I think that it does everything that Normal People is doing in a better way, in a more compelling way, in a more plot forward and plot focused way. I also don't think that I am a prude by any means, but when I read some Sally Rooney books, I am like shocked at some of the sex scenes in them, honestly. And I feel like Normal People has the worst of it. I would like be reading this book in public and I would be like insecure, and like I'd be looking over my shoulders a little bit, because I'd be like, oh my god. And like, that's not to say that I think that these scenes are bad, or that I think that they're worthless, or that I think that she shouldn't have written them. I just think that the scenes that she has written successfully in that like specific subcategory, I think that they've been more successful in Conversations with Friends and Intermezzo. Am I starting to sound like a broken record yet? This is my truth tea. This is the truth tea that I am sipping, and if your truth tea is anything different, I am so happy for you. But at the end of the day, it's just like different people have different flavors of tea that they gravitate toward. Okay, I'm ending this bit. It's okay. It's fine. Now, the next book that I'm going to be talking about is a book that I don't own anymore. I hated it so much that I got rid of it when I moved. And I do almost wish that I had like a copy on hand, because I really wish that I could just like read a couple of excerpts and like see if I was going to be too harsh. But let me just say, the worst person that you know is obsessed with My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I was trudging my way through this book. I was in the absolute trenches. And when you are like actively forcing yourself to like pick up a book and read it, and you just keep being like, I need to get through it, I need to get through it, I need to get through it, that is never a sign of a good book. Shockingly, I don't know, is that like a stunning, astute observation? No, but just because something is well known doesn't mean it's any less true. Now clock that tea. First of all, Ottessa Moshfegh is just such an insufferable person. I've read a couple of the articles that she has written and like a couple of her interviews, and my god, some of the things that she says, they're just incredibly stupid, and it makes it feel like any intentionality and like tongue-in-cheekness that My Year in Rest and Relaxation had, and any commentary that you thought that it was trying to make, it seems like, no, it's actually not this insane commentary. It's just like the narrator is just like that, because Ottessa Moshfegh is kind of just like that. Yeah, somebody on Storygraph who DNF'd it at 2%, so like take what they have to say with a grain of salt, but they wrote, OMG, this is the inner monologue of every coquette Lana Del Rey white feminist on TikTok, which, I mean, let that statement sit in the space. If I had to say anything to like the divas who liked this book, I would say look inwards. That's the first thing that I would say. And then the second thing I would say is God loves all of his children, even the people who have loved My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and you are not beyond redemption. Is that crazy to say? I feel like I'm being really harsh, but like at the end of the day, who am I? Ottessa Moshfegh, you are probably richer than I will ever be. So you win. Let's get into Bunny by Mona Awad, which is a book that I was so disappointed by, not because it's like offensive, but just because it wasn't the best. It did not live up to the standards that I had wanted. I feel like it's sold as like this really weird book, and like I guess it is. I guess it is. Yeah, okay, never mind. It is. Sorry. Rewinding, going back in my head, opening up this book, yes, it is crazy. My bad. Sorry. Let's rewind. I was hoping that it would go crazier. Like, there are a lot of crazy things that happen in this book, but specifically the first half. I wish that it kept ramping up, which I think one could argue that it does in terms of like content that happens, but for me, the second half feels a little bit thematically empty, whereas I feel like the first half feels very rich. I don't know if this is like a stupid compliment, but I do love that the writing style like changes with the main character, who now I'm forgetting her name. I also haven't read this in a while. Samantha Heather Mackley. I forgot that that's her name. That's honestly so funny. That kind of remembering that the main character's name is Samantha Heather Mackley is like kind of making me want to change my story graph rating from a 2.75 to like a 4. I don't know. It just I'm not over giving Mona Awad a chance. She has a lot of other books that I want to read. I just haven't gotten to them quite yet. There's actually a sequel to this book that just recently came out, and I'm very curious about it, and if I ended up reading it, I would probably reread this first. So I mean, let's be real, I'm probably not going to read it. I mean, this wasn't compelling enough to me to begin with, but the fact that it has a sequel is kind of compelling. Am I doing like a good job at like talking about these books? I feel like I'm not really talking about how I feel about the book, but like I'm talking about like slightly off things. You know what I mean? So I really hope that this is coherent in any sense. Next up, I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And before I forget, I just want to bring up, what is it with like these popular books and just having absolutely insane, completely unnecessary plot twists at the end? I hated the thing that it does at the end. I'm obviously not going to spoil it, but I absolutely hated that moment. I thought it was so pointless. But honestly, that and the fact that this is just like a really big book, it's 400 pages, and like this is maybe one of the biggest hardcovers that I own. This is fucking huge. It's just a big, heavy book, but like I can't hold it against that. I can't critique a book because it's heavy. You see what I mean? Okay, do you see what I mean about like I'm talking about things around the book, but I'm not like talking about the book itself. I feel like I'm not doing a good job here. I'm just being myself, and at the end of the day, all I can do is be myself. Anyways, this is a book that I absolutely think is worth the hype. That is where I was going with that. My only critiques of this book is that I think at some points it can get a little bit slow, that insane plot twist at the end, and it's big and heavy. That is it. Everything else about this book I absolutely love. I think it's incredible. I think that it's kind of a stroke. I don't know. It feels like a modern epic, which is so crazy and so interesting to read. If you don't know, it follows like two friends over like 2 decades as like they make a video game company. That is like an extreme oversimplification, but that's like the one sentence sell of it. And I'm not really that interested in video games, but I mean, the people that recommended this always said that it's not a deterrent, and I echo that sentiment. I think that if you're not really into video games, you should still absolutely give this a shot. If you're interested at all in the plot, I think that it's worth reading 100%, especially because, I mean, since it's extremely popular, you can engage in the discourse surrounding it. It has 234,000 reviews. I will say, I think that like the prose itself isn't anything extremely compelling. It definitely feels more plot forward to me. I would definitely say it's a mix between character driven and plot driven, but it definitely leans heavier on plot for me. And I also don't think that it relies too much on like over the top prose in any way. I say over the top not as a negative thing, but as like a general thing. I think that the prose in this book is not doing anything crazy. It's not doing doing anything wrong, but it's just not like particularly going above and beyond either. It does what it needs to do. It gets the emotions that it wants to get out of you really well. It gets the plot that it wants to get across well. It gets the development that it wants to get across well. I think it's a successful book. I think that Gabrielle Zevin should be so proud of this because it really is such an accomplishment. I feel like I cannot imagine even beginning to write this book. Again, like I said, it really feels like a modern epic to me. This is, again, a book that I just think is absolutely worth the hype and deserves the hype that it's gotten over the past couple of years. I think that it's great. I think it's a modern classic. I think we're going to be talking about it for a very long time, and I think that it deserves its title of a New York Times bestseller. Thank you. But that also doesn't mean that I don't have my issues with it. Let's do another book that I don't have, and that's I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This has 274,000 reviews on Storygraph, and I'm pretty sure it has over 1 million copies sold. I don't feel like I need to tell you what this book is. I mean, it's Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography. Yep, auto is the one where you write it yourself. Thank you. Yes, I am indeed an English major. Thank you. You're welcome. I thought that the pacing of this book was absolutely incredible. It was a breeze to get through. I thought it was a very insightful book. I think that Jeanette McCurdy has such a clear vision of like what she's trying to do in the first half. For me, the second half feels a little bit disconnected, but I wrote in my review that I think it was just a personal thing. I don't know. That's just something that I remember about it. I remember being significantly more compelled by the first half of the book rather than the second half of the book, but I still felt like it was overall a really strong piece of work, and I still felt like it deserved the attention that it got. I'm really curious to read Jeanette McCurdy's new book. I feel like it hasn't gotten the best reviews so far, but I have always been really compelled by it. Like when it was first announced, I've always been compelled by it, and it's been announced for like a couple of weeks. I guess a couple of months at this point, but still, it's not like it's been out for a minute, but I'm very excited about it. Very excited to read it. We'll see when I get to it. I trust Jeanette McCurdy as an author. I trust Jeanette McCurdy as an artist, and I have so much respect for her, especially after reading this book. It just wasn't my thing as much as it was other people's things, which, again, totally fine, totally chill. Everybody has their own moment, and this just wasn't my moment. Next up, I have This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Matar. I hope that I said that right. I was a little bit surprised that this made the list, just a little bit, but it does have 140,000 reviews on Storygraph, and I know that it is a very popular book within like the booktube, book talk space. I feel like everybody's talking about it, everybody has an opinion on it, so let me throw my 2 cents into the ring. I think that this is an incredibly difficult book on a first read because you really just don't know what's going on for about half of the book, which this is a short book, and so I feel like it does get away with it, especially because the second half of the book is so impactful, but it definitely is a tricky first read. I'm saying that as if I've reread it. I haven't. I'd be interested in doing it. The prose in this is absolutely beautiful. I think that it sometimes leans a little bit flowery and a little bit airy, and like it's focusing a little bit too much on the atmosphere of the book. But again, I just feel like at the end of the day, the atmosphere of the book is really, really good and really established. And so can I really critique a writing style that, yeah, I'm not drawn towards it, but it does what it wants to do effectively, and it pulls the emotions that it wants to pull out of me. I think that this is a beautifully written book at the end of the day. I will always hold this this book in high praise. I will also understand why people don't love it. Actually, saying that out loud, I will understand why some people don't love it for specific reasons, because I think that there are a couple of critiques that you could like give this book that are completely invalid. I'm saying that completely just based on vibes. I have no evidence. I have not one example, but I know this to be true. It's a very intriguing book. It's a book that's very compelling. And I mean, I think honestly, at the end of the day, it's a book that if you read it, you'll have a strong opinion about it. So, is that not what art is supposed to be? All right, and the last book that I am going to be talking about today is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I unfortunately was not a big fan of this. I actually probably shouldn't be ending on this. I don't know why I am. I should have been ending on a high note, and this isn't going to be a high note, but oops. This has like 250,000 reviews on Storygraph, right? Ish? Yeah, 255,000. This has 255,000 reviews on Storygraph. Emily Henry, obviously insanely popular author. I said this a couple of videos ago, I think in my bookshelf reorganization, where I talked about that Emily Henry is, I don't think that she's like a divisive author in the sense of like she as a person and her books are divisive, but more so that like her fans have very different and divisive opinions about the quality of her books and the quality like compared to one another. So I feel like People We Meet on Vacation is pretty difficult. I'll say that this is probably the one that I saw recommended the most often, and one of the recommendations that I feel the most betrayed by, honestly. I think that Emily Henry is a really good contemporary fiction writer, but I just think that this story was a bit too cliche for me at some points. And there were a couple of times where like a character would do something and it was just like a little millennial core. It was not like the most chic reading experience in the entire world, in my opinion. Is that a valid critique? Is Sorry, I just like, I can't help but be myself. I will critique a book for not being a chic reading experience. I do not care. The Rachel Incident, incredibly chic reading experience. Love that fucking book because of its chicness. So, yes, I am going to say that this isn't a chic book to read. The Friends to Lovers here, I think, is done well. Ooh, actually, okay, here's the thing. I like Alex at the beginning of the book, and then, like, after he has, like, revealed his love for Poppy, that is when it becomes, like, an immediate turn off for me. Which, is that saying more about me than about the book? Possibly, but I do think that there is a switch up in Alex's behavior in, like, the end of the book that is very uncomfortable to me, personally. I wouldn't say that this was a bad romance book. I wouldn't even say that it's, I'd say it's a little bit cheesy, but like at the end of the day, I like cheese. Cheese is really good in small doses. And this was just, I'm lactose intolerant. You know what? Let's say this is a bit cheesy. I'm lactose intolerant and I also forgot to take my Lactaid. That's how I feel about this book. Guys, I seriously am just like on the verge of losing it at any given point. Seriously. I mean, with that being said, is that all of the books that I have to talk about? There are a couple of other popular books that I have that I haven't read, but I'll be completely honest, once a certain book reaches like a certain level of popularity, I'm not gonna read it. Like, for example, The Song of Achilles, incredibly popular book. I have been recommended that book by literally almost every single person in my life, and because of that, I'm never going to read it. There are just certain aspects of me that are incredibly pretentious, and unfortunately, that is one of them. There also were some books that I thought about talking about for this video, but I think I'm going to talk about them later. So stay tuned for future videos. You should subscribe. You should turn on that notification bell. You should like, you should comment. You should do all of the things that, you know, the YouTubers tell you to do, but you should do it with me because I am hotter, sexier, smarter, funnier. I don't know if there's anything else that I have to say to you guys. I love you lots, and I hope that you have an incredible March. Will it be March when I upload this? I don't know. It won't be March when I upload this. Remember, because I'm actually filming this just a couple of days before it goes out. And so, actually, indeed, it is not March in a couple of days. Regardless, I hope that you guys have an incredible night. Do what you need to do. Read a popular book, read an obscure book. I have an obscure books video. Oh my god, this is gonna be like a perfect little, they're gonna like. Anyways, yes. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you live well. Thank you.
Yeah, till July sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry. But like, it's a virus. I get it. Like, I respect it. But at the same time, like, even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die.